Zig in the Zone. How about that? We return, Paulie. Season 2, Episode 30. Who'da thunk? How are ya?
Who would have thunk it, Ziggy? Who would have thunk it, buddy?
We're doing good, and I made you a promise that the guests will all be, when we started this, the guests will all be passionate and interesting and have opinions without being opinionated. And I only know our guest, David May, from the internet, but we've been Facebook friends, and I recognize where he comes from. And the trick is to find someone that is interesting in a way that appeals to our audience, which basically comes uh, people who follow baseball, who love baseball. And I was, to give you an example of my love for baseball, I was David, um, I was the Tops representative in the 80s and 90s on the West Coast. And I got to meet a lot of folks, and I recognize a good interview when I hear one or see one. And David, welcome.
Thanks.
Welcome to Zig in the Zone. And I've got so much to learn from you and ask you. Um, the one thing that appeals to me about you is that you've lived avocationally. You're a scout, a major league scout, and you've covered a bunch of territories for a bunch of teams in a bunch of areas. And I want to know, you're from Delaware originally. What is the favorite place that you've ever lived slash worked in?
Well, thanks a lot for the introduction, Zig. Yeah, it's kind of humbling. Yeah, I don't know if you like know my background a little bit, but I I was born in Rochester, New York. My dad was
Oh,
a AAA player for the for the Rochester Red Wings when I was born. He was a major leaguer with the Orioles. Um, uh, Family home has always been in Delaware, but my dad would end up be traded from the Orioles to the Brewers, and we actually had another home in Milwaukee. So I went to school in Milwaukee, and for a while until I was in the sixth grade, and then we moved back to Delaware on a full time basis. and he retired and started coaching. But so my dad was a player and coach, major league player and coach, and so kind of get that love for the game from him.
And
As
it's not just you in the family.
no,
Your brother was a major league player for a
right,
number of years and is into coaching as well.
yes.
Um, uh, Terrific. Let me complete the question. What's your favorite place that you ever lived?
For me, I would say as far as like what I consider home is where I live now, in Delaware. It's just it's the there's a lot of times when you're growing up and you're like I want to get away from here, get away from the, and then I've traveled enough around the country to understand that that's home is where where you make it, and for me home is where my family is, where my history is, and so that is where is home to me. I've lived in Atlanta, I've lived in Milwaukee. Those are the two other places I lived. But yeah, I always consider Delaware to be my home.
Your
Yeah,
wife has to be a very understanding and a good person to recognize what you had going. You couldn't have done it without her with the family.
100%, 100%. I met my wife when we were in college. I told her what I was going to do. I was a college baseball player at the University of Delaware. I told her exactly what I was going to do after I got out of I stopped playing, and she was like, follow your dream. So when I was done playing, we, you know, uh, before I had a job in scouting, my, she was pregnant. We were married, and she was pregnant, and then I got an offer, and that's where it started. And she knew that was my dream, and she moved with me from Atlanta back to Philadelphia to Delaware, to pursue what I was doing. And even though a lot of times, she's she's been able to make more money than I had in the beginning. So that was the sacrifice she made, and that's you definitely have to have in the sports industry. You definitely have to have a partner that understands, that it's a journey for both of you.
Uh, as the former stay-at-home dad around my place, I can understand what you're talking about. Money comes from either party; it doesn't matter,
Right.
and as long as ego isn't involved, it makes it all the more satisfying. And so, let me ask you a few questions from a fan standpoint, a father standpoint, and a mentor of kids standpoint. You're a major league scout, and bottom line, what's the first thing you look at that would get your attention in case a father wants to get the attention of a scout in whatever, besides the obvious skills that it takes? Is there one thing that would attract you to that kid?
Well, I like to say that, for the most part, when like we're like if we delving into amateur scouting here, um, the I always say to people, a pro prospector generally they stand out, immediately. I mean, they're kind of the man among boys. And I also say this to someone as well, but other people who ask is that, generally that player is one of the best players your town has ever seen. So I wouldn't say, I think you'll know who we know who the player is based on the athletic gifts and his abilities, and those are based on the raw tools. And so if he's got standout speed, or if he's got he can throw, high velocity. If he's got a lot of power, that's what generally brings us to the field to watch the players and particular players in particular. And then you start to learn about them and their aptitude and whether or not they're good people and whether or not and where they fit on the team. Those are different things that kind of pique your interest, where they separate, where players will separate themselves.
Very interesting. Um, were you able, this is an off the wall question, were you able to, when you were growing up and starting baseball and this and that, were you able to scout yourself?
No, that's the thing. I think if I would have understood who I was as a player, I think I'd have got a lot further.
Right.
But I think that I can look back at myself now, and I could evaluate myself and see what my flaws were, what my strengths were, and what type of player I was. My dad would tell me. My dad, here's one story: is my dad would come to the Little League field, and if he saw me sitting playing first base, he'd go to the coach and say, "No, put him in the outfield." Yeah, he's not playing first base. He's not a first baseman, And I'm thinking, I like playing first base. I like to catch the ball. No, you're not playing first base. And then I look back, and I ran well. I had power, those different things. So he's like, you're not. And I was a right-handed hitter who's 5'11", who's not going to be big, So it's like, so he was like already looking at, yeah, you need to move off of there, and you need to play there. So I think looking as a play, when I was playing, I didn't see it.
Do
When
you
you,
think you were too? Do you think you were too close to it, David? Do you think you were too close to yourself? Do you think you were too emotional? So, like, I'm my own worst critic. I think
right,
I'm probably my best friend and worst friend all wrapped up into one. I can usually see my faults before anybody else can see them, but
right.
sometimes they can help me self correct or whatever, stay the course or whatever needs to happen. So do you think you were emotionally too close to the situation? Because there's a lot of things, man. You're playing pro ball, there's a lot of stuff going through your head,
Yeah,
as well as life, right? There's always life, there's always this, but let's just add a little bit more into the pressure cooker, right?
right. No, the only thing you're thinking about for most of us, and that's the thing, is that's another unique trait of the really good high school player, the good college player, is that they see things and they think through the process. I was competing. I was just going up there trying to play. And so, there's a different level when you learn later on. I mean, as you get older as a player, you learn the way that you might be pitched in certain situations and things like that. But physically, when I looked at myself, just like to I just like to hit. I like to run. I didn't think about those things. I was just wanted to play the game and to have impact. I wanted to collect my hits, but I wasn't really thinking about you know exactly where I fit in the grand scheme of playing at the next level. So, yeah. So looking back, and I'm like, hey, I played everywhere. So, literally, I played every position on the field. So like now that's a skill in itself, but it was kind of one of those things where I didn't see that as being a strength.
Right,
And now I do.
and at that time, you were really probably just focusing on the game and where you were. I mean, you weren't
Right.
really trying to tweak it, and I think a lot of those things come with age and knowledge, right? You were how young were you at this time, and you were new to the game, to the big
Oh,
leagues.
I mean, yeah, from the period, like my dad was on, with coaches, but he was not one of those like a little league dad. He would, you tell us what the drills we need to do and everything like that. But he was not very hands-on. We kind of, like me and my brother, we were in clubhouses, we were on the fields with the major league players, so we just basically mimicked everything they did. Is the way we learned the game, and so
Sure.
so that was kind of how it went. I think, as I got older and my dad started to talk about strategy and stuff like that, then that's when the game slowed down for me. And I was like 17, 18. Now that's when the game slows down for you because now you have an understanding of exactly what they're trying to do to you,
Right.
in certain situations. And that's the thing. If you once your kid understands that part of the game, then he will excel to the best of his abilities.
David, did you play other sports growing up?
Absolutely. I was a football player, and I played basketball.
Do you feel that helped you develop into a major league player or a pro player?
Well, I didn't play in the major leagues.
That's what I'm sorry, but a pro player.
Yeah.
Um, and the other sports that you played, it was an advantage for you having played those sports to the best of your knowledge.
Oh, 100%. I just think like the having the agility and athleticism that you need to play basketball was super helpful and different things with stealing bases, sliding, things like that. Um, Playing football gave you a certain toughness, ability to concentrate in pressure situations, crowds, stuff like that. Learning how to fall the right way, different things like that help you explosiveness. And so I just bring, I think being able to play, multiple sports, they all bring something different to the table. And if you could, as a baseball player, you can use all of them at some point.
Okay. What do you pass on from your dad to your kids? It doesn't have to be sports, about life.
Oh, so the biggest thing was, and that I always try to, like when my kids, my oldest was a good softball player. And I would always talk to her about just being consistent, work every day on something that you need to improve. We would talk about the things that she needed to do in order to be better that next season and just be consistent. And then the other thing is just staying focused on what exactly those goals are. And that goes for off the field as well. Who you're hanging around with. Your education. Putting yourself in the best possible position.
Beautiful. Hey, Paulie, let's pause for a moment and have David catch his breath and do some work around the house that keeps us going.
All right, that sounds good, Ziggy.
Okay.
Let me see here. Let's do what I do best, which is fumble in the dark. No, that's not what it is. Um, what I do best is I'm waiting for my computer. I was fixing your graphics when you threw it over to me. So here we go. Let's see
All
what I can
right.
do here. Yes, we have to do the thing that pays the bills, folks. That's right. Let's reach out to our sponsors, and I guess you guys should see me on camera. We're gonna do that little thing that we do. First things first.
We're lawyered up,
We
first
are
of all.
we are lawyered up.
And we have two attorneys, both who specialize in different aspects of the law. They practice in Alameda, where the show is produced, and where I have uh, my headquarters. And I've known them. I've known Andrew Doza, who's a jack of all trades, for 25 years, and he's, in a word, honorable. The other attorney is what's the name? Well, I'm blanking. I'm blanking. He's new. He's new to my life,
Jeff Canberra.
Jeff Canberra, but he's new. But he specializes in something that's very interesting and unique: tenant relationships with the landlord. And he
And it's nothing to do with the relationship I have with my landlord, aka my wife. But okay, let's go forward.
no, well, that comes naturally.
Yes, it does.
With you will always have good things with your wife,
There you
but
go.
uh, Jeff specializes in the relationship that I talked about, and that's very unusual to find an attorney that has done this as his life work.
All right.
And um, so I just want to put in a good word for those two sponsors. If you all are looking for someone who's um, honorable and can compromise, and that's what needs to be done in landlord tenant relationship. It's got to come down to compromise of one way or the other. So we did a commercial.
All right. So let's do this thing, guys. This
Okay.
is what pays the bills, guys. We'll be right back after this. Whether it's criminal defense, estate planning, or civil litigation, the answer is the law offices of Andrew Doja. Call us today at 510-865-1600 or find us on the web at dojalaw.com.
For tenant and landlord disputes, there's no other than the law office of Jeff Canberra. Call now 1-510-865-7369 and don't forget to tell them Zig sent you.
All right, so there's the lawyered up thing, but hey, since I have your attention, please go like, subscribe, ring that little bell. These are where all the places where you can check out Zig in the Zone. That's right, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. Please go like, subscribe, and follow us, guys. And as always, you know Zig says, give to your Head Start program, give to your local Head Start program. These kids need your help. The government is leaving them in the dark like they're leaving all of us in the dark. So please go gather some books around your house, give it to your local Head Start program, and tell them Zig sent you. All right, guys, we're back here live in studio, and I'm back with you, Ziggy.
David, what would you have asked yourself if you interviewed yourself? What have I left out that you'd like to get across to the folks?
Oh no, I guess the big thing is that you know there's I don't know if people truly understand exactly what like a scout does or what their different areas of expertise is. I think people hear scout and they think it's the guy that just goes to the high school fields or the college field and looks at players play the game. And so that's the big thing is that like there's different levels and there's different things that you do in order to help a team as a scout. Um, and I think for the most part there's the amateur side, which you know is the lifeblood of an organization. And what they do is they're looking for that to bring talent in from the draft and the international side of scouting, and the really very important. Then there is the pro scouting side. Pro scouting is what I do right now. Basically, is what we do is we look at the other clubs for like uh, waiver wire claims, acquisitions. Um, we report on prospects that are already signed, major, minor league players that we want to talk about for trade purposes, and kind of evaluate the other team systems. And so when we have like like the trade deadline, that's when we're most active, and what we do. And the other part is the advanced scouting part of it. Most teams these days do a lot of video scouting, but we're one of the teams that actually has like a pro staff still that has part of the scouts will go into the ballpark and watch the games that way and break down the opponent. And then we also have video that will also break down the opponents before we play them. So there's like three different like distinct branches of scouting, and I've done all of them.
May I ask you, David, about the relationship with scouting and the player development side? Does it always run smoothly?
Absolutely not. I think that everybody's yeah, I think everybody's trying to figure that one out. I mean, there is the best organizations are the ones that are able to like minimize the personalities and have everybody work on the same with the same game plan, in regards to development, and being consistent. And so that's a challenge. Um, there's always going to be the scouts that say, "Well, I signed this great guy, and then when the development got him, he didn't turn out right," or this, But there's always going to be that part of it. But the goal should always be, hey, we're working together in order to maximize exactly what you're giving us. And as a scout, you want to be able to give players to a development staff that has the most upside potential. And that's what, as a scout, that's what you're always looking for, just upside. How far can we go with this player? Is it, and every player should have a major league ceiling that you're bringing in. And so that's what you're trying to do, and you're trying to collaborate on that.
Do some folks in player development sometimes scout as well?
I think that, so when we're talking about player development, most of the time, we are talking about coaches, um, managers that have spent some time as scouts. They do evaluate. They're always evaluating their own players. I know. I look at it from a different prism than my brother does. My brother, he's been a coordinator, he's been a major league hitting coach. So what I look to bring in is I bring in the raw physical tools. He's looking at the raw physical tools, and he's looking at how can I maximize, but he's looking at it from an explosiveness standpoint, an aptitude standpoint, stuff like that. So we both scout, but we scout differently, So there's so once you turn them over to development, but I guess your main question is, do they scout in ballparks? No, but they do understand and have an idea for what the tool set is.
Okay. Um, Paul, would you add to what we have going?
Yeah, absolutely. Since it sounds like they've broken into your mobile studio.
Oh,
Jeez.
that,
You've been
let me.
carjacked. You've been
I,
carjacked.
I
So,
haven't yet.
no, there we go. All right, we're
All
back.
right.
So how can I add to this? Absolutely, I can absolutely add to this. I would say that it seems like a really exciting and fun job, and it's keeping you young. It's keeping you in the game. It's keeping your mind engaged. It's something that you truly love. It's something that, it's something like both Zig and I have done in our lives, where you have a job that you enjoy, and it's kind of like, it makes all the difference in the world in your life, doesn't it? I mean, to be able to wake up and just kind of look forward to work. There's so many years and so many people and so many places that I've worked in the past that I was just punching a clock. I was just doing time. I was just trying to bring home a check. But it sounds like what you've got is it's keeping your enthusiasm for the game and your love of the game alive. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, at heart, I'm an athlete and I want to compete. And this is just an extension of that, you know. I mean, I can't physically do the things that I used to be able to do, but you know, I think coming, you know, doing this, and I think thinking back, and like I've seen players like play their entire careers. Now I've been in the game for 30 years now as a scout, and I've watched guys play their entire career, and then you know, and now you're thinking about do they belong in the Hall of Fame, and that's you know crazy to me, you know, but it's new and exciting. I always see some player, and I know that he's going to be he's got the potential to be the next great one. You know, funny thing is like my first year, I had a trial camp, and in my trial camp, I had Mark Teixeira as a sophomore, or no, freshman, high school, and so it's like that kind of stuff, like those memories that you have. Are I had Mike Trout, and come to the trial camp, and he said he couldn't. He apologized to me. He wasn't going to be able to participate in the camp, and but he thanked me for you know inviting him, and that kind of stuff, it sticks with you. You know, it's like I knew him when, and that's exciting to me.
Well, and even just
Time.
oh, I'm sorry, Zig. I was going to say just even go ahead.
I was just gonna say, time flits.
Yes,
No question about that. 30 years ago, I signed Ken Griffey Jr. to his first Tops contract. And I signed Will Clark. And I watched these guys and Robbie Thompson, watched these guys come along, and it's a passing of time that still amazes me. Robbie Thompson, you know, all these years have gone by quickly. And baseball's the common denominator. I sense that you love it very much, David.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
it seems like you've had an indelible influence of a lot of people in your life, including your father. I was wondering, and I'm sorry, did I miss? Do you have children? I'm sorry, David.
yeah. I have two children. I have a daughter and a son. They're both grown. They're adults now. So yeah.
And
Yeah.
well,
Um,
how did that translate to your parenting? I mean, we saw the influence that your dad had on you.
right. I think so with my dad was not able to be at as many events as I was, so I wanted to make sure that I was always there, that the door was always you know open for them. I was at most of their games. I coached I coached my son's little league team, you know, part time on a part time basis, while I was scouting as well. And I was fortunate to have a someone an organization that understood how much that wasn't how important that was to me. But yeah, no, I think that's the big thing about it was that I was able to communicate, you know, openly with my children, and I think they appreciate that right now.
Yeah, I raised my children, and I was a baseball coach. I was t-ball, I was little league, even did some
Yeah.
minors and stuff like that with the kids. And I had three of my kids on different times in different years that either I was managing or coaching or whatever was going on. And for most of it, it was a blessing. It brought me closer to my kids. I could see how they develop their social skills in a real setting because you can't follow your kids to school, at least not
Hmm.
inside. So you see how they interact with other kids. Sportsmanship, boy, that is a tool that you need even if you don't play sports, folks. Look at politics. If we had good sportsmanship in politics, holy smokes. but yeah, I mean, there's these things that we learned, but I know that it was not beneficial for one of my kids. I think it
Okay.
was. I think it was a hindrance that his father was coaching or managing the team. There was definitely some friction there, and so that didn't help that. But I think in whole, it's kind of it's a great little legacy
Right.
that you pass on. I mean, we always try to do the next generation a little bit better. I heard you saying, yeah, I went to all their games. My dad didn't make it to everything, and
Yep.
so I feel you on that. I can relate to that, and so yeah, we sometimes we even overcompensate for those things. So hopefully it does that generation a little bit better, and so I'm glad that you were there and you were able to do that. And now your kids are what, close to how old?
My daughter's 30 and my son is 23. And
So
I, and
yeah,
I and I would say that I would say this about it, like what you just said. I was a lot more hands-on with them as far as, they needed help, immediately. I was I didn't, wait for them to figure it out. I also coached her basketball in the off season as well. So it was a different relationship than like I put my dad on a pedestal and I was more
right.
approachable.
Well,
So
that's good. That's what you want with your kids. You want your kids to call you if they have a problem, even
yeah.
when they're 23 and 33, because that's where the spread is for my kids right now. It's 24 and 34, so we're together. So, but
Hey,
yeah,
hey,
exactly.
hey guys, I just want to tell you what my philosophy of parenthood
Okay.
is that you should not pass on all of your neurosis to your kids. They'll be getting enough from your mate.
Okay.
Right.
So, um, I and I got a smile out of David. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all human, and like I told my kid once, I'm doing this for the first time. I'm not good at being a daddy yet, you know. And you never get perfect,
No, no matter how many kids you have, no
right?
matter
Right.
how many kids you have, you don't ever, it never, it's not, and not any one person or kid is the same. No situation is the same. Uh, I've had conversations with different people. Even in the last couple of days, we've had conversations like, oh, were you the youngest child, the middle child, or the oldest child? And sometimes that dynamic alone means
Right.
so much in a family. And so,
And
yeah,
sometimes it's a help, and sometimes it's a
it's a
hindrance.
hindrance. Yeah.
Right.
It's funny
Um,
how families are. What I know David has something to say there.
No, no, yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely, I'm an oldest, so of course the junior, but yeah, I was the oldest, and yeah, that dynamic does play into it, and both my kids actually were because of that space, and I'm sure you understand, Paul. It's like they were raised like almost like only children, like
Oh yeah.
they were only child because there was such a difference in their age. So, but
did
yeah,
you have a sibling rivalry with your brother who was also a player? And I won't say he was more talented, but he was bigger.
yeah. So
Uh,
here the thing about it was my brother, I developed quicker than my brother did. So I was always he was trying to catch up to me and everything at all times. And then at a certain point, and people always thought we were twins because we were about the same size. And but like athletically in football, baseball stuff, I was always like on the all-star team, and he would follow me right behind me, and and so as you know, so he as a younger brother, he was a middle child. He had a more of like a fixation on me than I did probably had on him, and I kind of looked out for him. And at one point, I remember, and he was like, everybody says you're the better one, all this stuff like that. And I told him, I was like, look, that was probably my first scouting report right there. And I was like, look, you're bigger than me. You're going to be just as fast as me. You're going to be you're going to be the guy that everybody's going to come to see. Eventually you're going to be the major league player.
My point was you were okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I thought I had a chance, but I knew I was going to be him.
Yeah,
At that stage, I could physically see the difference between the two of us, and the kind of player he was going to be. And there were people who were comparing him to Darryl Strawberry. That was like at that point, at a certain point when he was in high school, and he was just bigger and taller, and just as
right.
fast.
He was longer. That's
Yes.
all.
Yep.
Um, and sometimes that's not an advantage with the ball player.
No.
Sometimes short and compact is better for the game that they play. So uh, you've lived a terrific life, and we've enjoyed having you on the show. Um, Anything you want to add to it, Paulie?
No, it's been a pleasure getting to know you virtually. I would love to have you back again
Absolutely.
and tell us and catch up with what you got going on. Now, what's another thing you do to express yourself? Is it all about ball, or is there another way that you get it out? I mean,
Well,
right? I mean, is there music? Is there writing?
oh,
Is there?
oh no, I'm into music. We travel. My daughter's a foodie, so we go to different restaurants that she recommends. Um, uh, Big thing, and in all season, I volunteer, and I coach still in the youth leagues for basketball. But yeah, and then also I'm pretty passionate, and Ralph knows this about politics. So
Yeah, I was just gonna. So that's what I was gonna say. So go check out David May Jr.'s Instagram because he does let you know what's going on. He knows what's up. I checked
yeah,
you out. I stalked
yeah,
you. That's what
yeah,
I do. So check
yeah.
out David May Jr. It's David MJR _ 716 at Insta. And yeah, you're talking about some of the stuff we got going on in this country, and I'm glad that you're speaking up because we need more like-minded individuals doing their job. We can't just go
Yeah.
silently into the night. This is a whole
No,
new civil war that we've
yeah.
got going on. So I
And
appreciate it.
you're not exaggerating on that. We've
Oh,
got
fuck
a
no, I'm
band
not. Excuse
together.
my language, kids out there. F no, I'm not.
Yeah,
No, all about equality. All about equality for me. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
and you know what? Due process.
Yes,
You're not
please.
just going to put a falcon hood over me and stuff me into a van. Not a
No,
chance. So
no.
right.
come get me, folks.
Yeah,
Come get me. You know where to find me. I'm right here on the airwaves, speaking
yeah.
my
Yeah,
mind.
and you
So,
know where to find me. It's not where you are.
yeah. So, David May, any shout outs, anything you want to shout out, anything you want to promote?
No, I don't have anything to promote. I just I appreciate you guys, asking me on, and I look forward to coming back on again sometime.
Yeah, and also when you're out visiting your daughter, come by.
Okay,
We'll put you in the studio. We'll put you up. Um, we loved having you.
okay, great, great.
Absolutely. And enjoy your day. Uh, all right, Zig, send us out like only you can, sir.
Only I can. Hey, listen, be good to one another. Life is very short, and be forgiving and loving, and kiss your animals. There's they're a joy when people aren't. Every day you know what to expect from your dog, and people aren't that easy to get along with sometimes, only because they're scared as well. We are all going through a time of politically, socially, time of upheaval and change. And it's more than just good drama.
And I will
So,
leave you with that, Zig. I'll tell you right now, the more people I meet in this world, the more I love my dog. So,
absolutely.
all right, you guys, for myself,
All right.
Zig, and David, we're out of here, guys. We'll see you
Thank
next
you.
week in the zone,
Thank you.
folks.